that way. So let's do this.
Elegant weapon.
Let's hope things are going all right, kids. Let's bop our heads a little as we get into the groove. Oh, look, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to An Elegant Weapon, episode 397. My name is JJM Clark, J the Jedi Ross, or Ross Jedi J. And as always, it is so wonderful to have all you beautiful babies here with us in the High Walker Studios. Happy belated 420, kids. I know I didn't jump on for the weapon, but your good friend Josh and I, we did a little 2Js later. So for all you kids who caught that, I hope you had a good time. Tonight on the show, yet another writer is joining us to get verbose about a certain Kickstarter project of theirs. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Frank Martin.
That's quite an intro.
I try to do what I can here.
I don't know if I can live up to that.
That's no problem, man. Ladies and they usually can. There we go. We got to mute that when we try to share that and everybody there. All right, kids, we're all shared. We got our comments up. Share now with friends. Boom. Everybody, we're all over the place and we're hanging out, as I said, with Mr. Frank Martin. Frank, where are you?
I'm in New York.
Are you really? New York? Like in the city? New York State? Where are we talking?
Suburbs outside the city.
Well, that's exciting. Are you a New York native?
Yeah, I am. I like living outside the city because, as my dad likes to say, my favorite part of New York City is leaving. I like going and getting my city fix. Well, not now, but you go in for a show, you go in for dinner, you go in for a sporting event or concert or whatever, and then you get out and you go back to your space.
I would assume you've attended New York Comic Con in the past.
I have, yes, a couple of times.
Man.
I've never tabled there. I'm always just an attendee. I've never been like a vendor.
Oh, it's a whole different monster going to that show. I mean, I'm here in Toronto and we've got Fan Expo Canada, which, it's the third biggest in North America, but still, like, people don't understand, like, the step up from even like the third biggest to what New York Comic Con is. I'm like, it's like it takes over the city. It's just like an entity unto itself,
Yeah, I've been to Toronto a couple times. It's a cool city. I've the only two big shows I've been to I've been to Cccxcviii and I've been to New York Comic Con. And Cccxcviii, I was a vendor. My publisher at the time had a booth, so I was kind of hanging out in the booth and selling books, and I got to walk around too. And I like that show because it's a big show, but it has the feel of a small show.
It does. Yeah, you're totally right. It's like a tight hangout. Everybody's very loose at C2E2, and the creators love it. Like all the pros, the pros just seem to love C2E2. They just really relaxed, and you can just be walking through the hall and like high five Greg Capullo as he's walking by. Yeah, that happened. Just for fun, you know what I mean? So it's super cool. So you are the writer of a book called The Last Homicide, which currently has a Kickstarter going, which I believe, let me check out here. You are so damn close, no?
I am.
Oh my goodness. Kids,
$49, I think it is.
It's ridiculous. People, those couple of numbers watching, look how ridiculously close this is. I'm going to give you the translation as I usually give for our American friends. You're looking for a goal of 3,500 Canadian, and you're at 3,439. So you're $71. $61 short of your goal with 5 days to go. So I'm going to do nothing but assume that this is going to be a successful Kickstarter for you. Is this your first Kickstarter?
This is my 9th overall.
Woo! Okay.
My 7th comics Kickstarter, but my 9th overall one. My first was in 2018.
Okay, well, tell me what's the history. Tell me your origin story. What's your journey through comics been all about?
Sure. I grew up writing primarily prose. I'm one of those kids that started writing, did the assignment for like elementary school when the teacher says, write a story, and you're in kindergarten. And I just kind of never stopped writing. I wrote my own stuff, fan fiction. That's kind of how they all suck us in. And then I started writing my own longer stories and then novels. And I've always written comics, but it wasn't until I would say around college age when I'm like, I like writing and I like comics. Let me just try writing comics. And I learned that the learning curve is very steep. You know, it's not that easy. It's not that simple as I write books. Let me write books with pictures. It's not the same
Yeah,
thing.
it's a very different process as far as like, I know when you're just writing prose, you can kind of let it spill, right? And then it's just like a brain dump, and then you can refine and draft and draft and draft. But comics, you kind of got to start with more of a structure, yeah?
It's a hell of a lot more technical. You have
Yes.
it's there's a lot more of a thought process that goes into how you want to tell the story. Because at the end of the day, when you write prose, you have a direct shot to your reader. You know, whatever you put down on the page, that's what they're going to be consuming. But with comics, you need to use your artist as a conduit to tell the story. So it's not like you're not the main vehicle there. You're not in charge. So you need to be collaborative and work with people and figure out how to best use your artist to tell that story. And so I began with some short stories. That's kind of the best way to start. Keep it small, and then work your way up. And I had an anthology after a couple of years that I was with a publisher, the publisher that was with C2E2 at. And I said, the anthology's all finished. I'm going to put it on Kickstarter. Is everything okay? And they go, yeah, it's great. And then 2 weeks while I was about to launch, he emailed all the creators and said, I'm going on business. I'm closing up shop. So it's like, that's nice. Thank you for giving me some heads up before I put all this work into the Kickstarter. But I plowed through, I steamed ahead, and I funded the book in 2018. 2019, I did 3 campaigns. 2020, I did 3 more campaigns. And now 2021, I'm planning 5. And this is my second of my 5th Kickstarters for the year.
Wow. So you've had a little practice then.
A little bit. Yes. It's funny because I feel like you get more nervous the more Kickstarters you run, because you know how badly you could screw things up. It's like it's like the more knowledge you have, the more that you know that how you could be missing something, because you think you know it all, but you really don't. You're always missing. It's like going to the airport, you know? It doesn't matter how many times you go to the airport. Once you're in that car, you're like, I left something at home. I know I left something at home.
Yeah, you're patting every pocket. Yeah, for sure. So the writing started early for you then. You kind of, is this your main profession? Are you a professional, or do you got like a day gig going on?
No, I got a day gig. I work with family's company, but
right on.
One day I'm building up slowly, creating more income for myself. Hopefully one day I can.
Oh, isn't that the dream? Oh God, if I could just sit here and use my mouth all day to talk with people and somehow afford to eat off it, that would just be the dream, I tell you. But no, instead I got to spend my days climbing up stupid trees and then coming home and talking about comic books at night. But we all have to live an eclectic lifestyle. So you were kind enough to hook me up with a little preview look at a few things going on with the Last Homicide, and I greatly dug it. It's right in my vein of the kind of things that I like. In fact, the other day I was just actually watching LA Confidential.
Oh.
And it brought up reminders of such things. In fact, I wonder if that kind of thinking about this might have put that in my head, but it just put that I was in the mood and I was like feeling that noir feeling. You've seen that? I would assume you've seen that.
I've seen it a long time ago. I don't remember too much, but I definitely have seen it. In all the shows that I've done, the interviews that I bring up various movies and stuff. I haven't mentioned that one.
Oh yeah.
So, no, I haven't mentioned that one. It's a good one that just popped into my head too. I don't know if you're a video game guy. What's it called? LA Noire.
No, not familiar.
That's another good one. It's got the same feel. You're a detective and you have a bunch of cases and you have to kind of like try to solve the case. It's
right.
Cool. But yeah, there's tons of stuff out there that kind of try to hone in on this old school detective gumshoe kind of pulp noir feel to it.
So were you influenced by any of the actuality of that then? Were you reading that kind of stuff back in the day, or?
I love everything. So I write all over the place. So my last Kickstarter was a sci-fi adventure. The one before that was kind of like a Twilight Zone, surrealist horror. So I'm all over the place. And yeah, this was one of the things that I loved, was detective, kind of hard-boiled pulp. In middle school, I was the kid that when you get assigned a book in English class, you don't read it, and then you just kind of guess what it's about from everybody else talking. But
Okay.
one of the ones I did read was the Maltese Falcon. I'm like, okay, this doesn't seem too long. The words look kind of big. Detectives, let me read it, and I really dug it. It was Dashiell Hammett. It was really easy to read. So yeah, after I read it, I loved it so much. I watched the movie. When I went to San Francisco, I kind of like I went with my wife, and I kind of like tried to, let's go to this place, let's check it out. And it was secretly because I knew that it was part of the book and part of the movie. So I'm really into that world and all the stuff that's surrounded. Like one of my favorite movies is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, it's not hardcore pulp noir, but it kind of steamrolls off of that into its own little genre.
It absolutely does. I used to go to these little independent cinemas in Toronto for various different films. Like back in the day, there was this little, what was this guy's name? Rex Harrison or something. And he would play like propaganda films and old school like cartoons. And sometimes he'd have these noir nights. And sometimes he'd play French noir. And I'd go to watch these weird ass black and white old
That's
school
when things
movies.
get really weird.
Yeah, and like some of them were subtitled, so you kind of got it, but once in a while they wouldn't be. But even the stuff that wasn't French, it was heavy back then, you know? It was a weird mix of like, I don't know, emotion and like stoicness. I don't know if I'm describing that correctly, but it was like this robotic emotion that came out of these movies I always found. And these characters that didn't emote much, but you know, they kind of felt a lot. I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I feel like French cinema, especially French noir cinema, it's kind of like the experimental proving grounds for all that crap.
Yes, yeah.
And
totally.
then Hollywood, the guys who are really good at it, Hollywood would poach for like big budget Hollywood films. And even though they had to streamline a lot of that stuff for like a regular movie, you could still tell that they're playing around with all that toolbox that they refined and honed, doing their own stuff, and they brought it to their own cinema and to try to make it the norm and mainstream in Hollywood. And we see that all the time now. A lot of it's celebrated with all these crazy films that we see coming out.
Well, it's such a it's almost it's a very used just like tactic now. Even movies like The Watchmen, I could think of, or Sin City, which you know, are completely new, you know, very technologically advanced movies, but are very rooted in the feeling of noir. And like the whole thing of Watchmen, you're watching this crazy weird spectacle, but it's all from like the gumshoe. It's all from Rorschach's perspective, and he's chatting like Sam Spade through the whole thing. You know what I mean? So I kind of love that feeling, that quality can be put into something as crazy as a superhero movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's nifty stuff. So The Last Homicide, what sets it apart? What is unique about it? What do you want people to know that will make them go and pledge to this Kickstarter?
All right. So what I want to say is unique about The Last Homicide is that it's not unique. And the reason, or what I'm going to say about that is so as we were talking about, you have all of these movies coming out that play off the genre, that don't 100% adhere to its core, to its roots. Like Watchmen, it's got a noir feel to it, but it's superhero. Sin City, it's over the top fantasy. You got stuff like Seven that has a little bit of a noir feel to it, but it's psychological horror. As I said, you have Who Framed Roger Rabbit, that's comedy. This is just a straight pulp noir, hard-boiled, slow burn detective story. You know, nice. I'm not playing around with other genres or other themes or other tropes. I'm kind of trying to bring it back to its roots here and telling something that's not unique, something that's old school, something that's classic. People that want to break from all the craziness of all these different premises comics are throwing out nowadays, and just want something that feels like it was from the golden age of cinema. And I root that feeling, that plot device, and it's very much surrounded with organized crime. So if you're into crime comics, like The Sopranos, this is all about that kind of stuff too.
And this stuff does well. There's definitely an audience for it. A year or two, there was a book here put out in Toronto. It was called Tommy Gun Banshee. And it's just like it sounds, man. It's just old school gangsters riding on the sides of Tommy guns. There's a little bit more twisty stuff to it, but people can find that out for themselves. But it did really well. It was a huge success. I mean, I loved it. In fact, you know what they did is they printed it on newsprint.
Yeah,
And it came out beautifully when they did this book. And SourcePoint Press for a long time has gotten the rights to old school pulp comics and has been republishing them under the classic pulp title. So, and those have been like a steady, you know, seller. Those are like a, you know, a good thing to have on the table, because you're always going to move some of them, because there's always pulp fans coming along, you know?
Yeah. I lost my train of thought. You got me thinking about all those old books there and recycling them. So it's one of those things where if you pick, like, you could go into an old school antique bookstore and you see the rack of all pulp stuff. It's like those books have been out forever, but you know what they're about. So it's not like you need to read the brand new thing. You could read something that's 40, 50, 60 years old and still get a kick out of it. You know, that kind of stuff is timeless in a way.
Well, it's fun to see today's artists and writers putting out these stories, because it is an art form, you know what I mean? And you don't want to see it completely lost. So it's nice that it can be freshened up by like today's generations as we move on and try doing these old school things, you know? It's like Westerns. Look how hard hit Westerns are. You know, you don't see them too often these days, and not a lot of people are making them. But occasionally when they do get made, they often are appreciated. You know what I mean? There's like one hit Western that comes out like every couple of years, but other than that, it's not really a genre being made. And I don't know if that's because we just forgot about it, or there's just too much superhero sci-fi now. You know, it's like, remember Dick Tracy came out?
I was going to talk about Dick Tracy.
Yeah, and pulp was huge again, and gangsters were huge again, and gangsters were all of a sudden on TV. And it wasn't just Dick Tracy. All of a sudden, you had the Untouchables TV show that came out with William Forsythe playing Al Capone, and you know, and there was a little bit of a boom after Dick Tracy in the whole, you know, gangster era.
They talked a lot about, I saw on TV, that The Sopranos has really pushed the anti-hero. You know, in the wake of Sopranos, you see stuff like Breaking Bad and Mad Men, where protagonists are kind of like, you want to root for them, but they're not really good guys, you know? And that's the way kind of Hollywood and pop culture works. You know, something sets the tone for it, and things work in trends. I would love to see Westerns kind of get revitalized and make a big push, especially in comics. That would be cool. We don't see enough Western comics.
Not at all. And they used to be so beautifully drawn. I left my grandpa left me this stack of like, not dime books, but like they were like, how do I describe them? They're like graphic novel size books with like stories and illustrations in them. So they weren't comics and they weren't storybooks. They were like this weird half in between hybrid graphic novel pulp kind of thing.
Back when there were no rules and people did whatever they wanted.
Right. Yeah. But I always remember that the illustrations were just gorgeous in these things. Like, just like on the ink drawings of a cowboy and his horse down by the river, like simple stuff, but there was just an elegance to the lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. People appreciated that aesthetic, you know?
You see a lot of, not pure Western, but like we were talking about with pulp and noir and kind of detective stories, you see a lot of comics play off of the Western kind of trope or Western atmosphere to bounce it off into some level of sci-fi, like Cowboys and Aliens, or you see a lot of like, I'm a big fan of the Ghost Rider from that era. You know, he's got he's riding the horse and the horse is a skeleton, like all that kind of stuff I really dug.
That was a great visual. I loved that shit. If I could Sam Elliott turn it into
I had a if I would have, this isn't my dream comic, but a comic I always wanted to write for was like you know, the guy from Jeepers Creepers?
Yeah.
Jeepers Creepers. I always wanted to do like the Western Ghost Rider Jeepers Creepers crossover. Like he wakes up in like Western times, you know, how he wakes up like every couple of years or so. I want him to wake up then and he fights the Ghost Rider. That would be a comic that I would love to write.
That's an excellent. You should write it, man. Screw it. Write it anyway.
Screw it. Just do it anyway.
Hope if something happens, you can at least write it for you. Yeah. That could be fun. I'm gonna bring this over here, And hold on, I'm gonna do that. I want to share a screen. So we're gonna share a screen here, kids. We're gonna share a screen too. Boom, because I want you all to see this. Where to go? Where to go? Here it is. There. Can we see that? Can everybody see that loveliness? This is a Kickstarter we're looking at right here, kids, for The Last Homicide. So it's number one of a two-part. There'll be another Kickstarter for the second part then?
Yes, that will probably be in January. I don't know. I can't plan that far ahead.
This cover's amazing.
Yes, I really dug the cover. That was done by the same guys as the interior art team, Eugene and Pietro. They worked on together, and I love it because you can't look at it and mistake what the book is going to be about. You know, you immediately get into that mindset that this is kind of that old school kind of noir feel to it.
Yeah, it's got that 60s. It's a weird though because it's also got a feel for that 60s kind of movie poster vibe.
Yeah.
Like the 60s James Bond kind of thing going on at the same time in there, right? Tell me about your team here. Tell me about your fellow creators.
So I have Pietro Vaughn's doing the art. Eugene Bettevue is the colorist. And I'm getting a lot of praise for them two working together because his art with the colors really set the mood and set the tone for the book, get people in the right mindset. And Pietro has this way of framing a lot of the panels that give it a real cinematic feel to it. You know, you really get that noir look to it with the shadows and the long establishing shots and stuff. And I usually letter my own books. For this book, I had Tobin Ray-Sakat do the lettering, and he's been doing a great job too, because there's not a lot of action or fancy imagery to drive this story. It's a real character story. So
yeah, there's a lot of words, man.
Yeah, the dialogue is very important, and so I needed to work with him to really hone the placement and the word count so it's not too bogged down. You know, when I was writing this, I was getting my old school like 1940s screenwriter feel. I'm just typing away at the dialogue, and before I know it, I got so much text. I'm like, this is going to cover up all the art. What am I going to do? But I had a whole lot of fun writing these characters because that's what they are. They're characters. You know, I got mob bosses and corrupt cops.
Right. You should get an old school typewriter to write part 2 on, man, and just tap 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 and just blast away on that thing.
Well, you know what my dream is to get a typewriter, and I always want to bring it to conventions because I'm so jealous of artists that put their head down and just, I'm drawing, I'm working, I'm on a commission. So I'm going to offer people commissions on my typewriter.
That's an amazing idea.
People are gonna walk by, and I'm just gonna be like, I'm busy on a story. Pop, pop, pop.
Holy shit! That's one of those things that's so brilliant. I can't believe nobody's thought of doing it yet. Like for real. And oh my good dude, you got to do that. Like you can't let that get away.
Well, you know what?
Everybody who sees this damn show, this is being patented right now. If I see anybody else doing that, I'm gonna assume that they've ripped off Frank Martin. And that's what I'm gonna go with.
Every campaign, I actually offer a short story commission, and I always get 1 or 2 people that pick me up on it. And it's really cool to talk with somebody and say, what do you want a story about? And then they tell me, and I write them up a story and I send it over to them. It's
well, I've seen that done before. Ben Goldsmith is one individual who will do story commissions. And he'll do like deals where if you buy his comic, he'll write you like a quick short story, or it's like he'll have these cards you can do quick little ones and stuff. But no one's ever sat there with a typewriter at the table, just like he's an artist, I'm a writer. Here's my typewriter.
Yes.
That's fucking great. You know, nobody notices when they're all using their old school watercolors and stuff. So
it was born out of jealousy because artists, when they get commissioned for something, they're like, I don't have to pay attention to you. I'm working on a commission. So I'm just like, I'm going to do that. I don't want to try to like hawk people as they walk by. I just want to bury my head in the typewriter.
It's great. Travis Gibb. Friend of the show, Travis Gibb of Broke Down and 4 Dead Bodies, which kids, if you haven't read that shit, you got to get on that and read that. I can't possibly tell you what episode it was, but Travis was on talking about said book. What does he say? I cannot recommend enough. The story brings crime noir back to its roots with a classic detective tale told with love and respect for the genre. That's about as straightforward as it could get, you know? So
his words. He was the first person I go to because he's actually mad at me because he says I'm poaching on his genre, and I say move out of the way. So
no, there's plenty of room in this genre, man. I'm telling you. And look at this art, kids. This is nice and solid stuff. Look at that. Yeah, and lots of words to read, and you should all check it out and read them. That's cool. That's a good use of the blacks there.
Yeah, I asked Pietro. Originally, I said what type of we were going to collaborate, and I asked him what type of story do you want to tell, and he immediately said crime. That's my wheelhouse. That's what I love telling, and and I pitched him some ideas, and this is the one he honed in on. And a lot of time, artists will say, you know what? I'm a horror guy. Everybody wants me to draw horror. I'm sick of horror. I want to do a fantasy story about unicorns. In which case, I'll say, great, let's write a fantasy story about unicorns. But he didn't. He doubled down on his strength, and he wanted to tell a noir story. And that's where we are.
Okay, what am I looking at here as far as
some rewards?
Theme song?
Yes,
Did you write music for this?
I did not write music. I am completely musically adept, but go all the way up to the top of the preview pages.
The top of the preview pages.
Yeah, you've had it. So my buddy Lane Thomas, I commissioned him to write a theme song for every one of my projects simply because I love him. So he does a great job with everything. Doesn't matter what the style is. He did a horror one, he did a sci-fi one, and now he did a crime noir. So it's kind of an old school feel to it, and you can play it if you want.
Let's check it out.
This is just a peek of it. Oh, speakers.
It's a little loud. Oh, there we go.
I don't
know. Are we hearing this, kids? You can hear that?
I can't hear it.
You can't hear it.
I've heard it enough times, though. I don't need to hear it.
I hope you kids can hear that. If not, I'll maybe layer it in after, but it's really nice. It's smoothie, smoky jazz music. So
got that big band feel to it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love when people do that, man. I've had a couple books on over the years where people have done cool soundtrack ideas and like concept type albums to go along. Phil Buck, a friend, he was on for his some of his work, and it was called Those Shadow People, and it was a fantastic book, but they also wrote songs for like all the chapters and stuff, so you were meant to kind of listen to the music as you read the book, so you had like a soundtrack going. Yeah, I like multimedia. That's fun kind of stuff.
It's just a little something extra, and I think it rounds out the project. And I'm always amazed by what he does, because I just send him the book and I'm like, read this, make music, and he just somehow spits out the exact song that I need. I don't know how he does it, but he does a great job.
That's what do we got here? Become a character. That's a nice. That's your standard here there on an excellent comic book, is to get yourself actually in there, kids. Oh, look at that.
So those
are cool pictures.
So Luke Cooper, who did the variant, that's the guy holding the bullet up there on that cover.
Right here,
that's his artwork, and I have a commissioned here for him.
Very cool.
Yeah, he's a noir guy, so I knew I had to go to him.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. Become your character. Produce a short comic. Interesting.
Nobody's taken me up on that yet, but I kind of throw it up there as my big ticket item. That people want to get started in comics, they don't really know where to begin. We'll do it for you. I'll help you write the script, walk you through the process of the art, get you a 5-page digital comic with a cover, and away you go.
You know what, kids? It's not the worst idea, and that's not the craziest price I've seen, considering you're kind of paying for a collaborator / editor. And I believe having an editor is a very important thing, especially when you're new to the process, at least. So you're basically paying to have that come along with you, which is very cool.
Yeah, and then a Kickstarter has an add-on feature now, so that's just some of the add-ons that I was doing.
Oh, nice. Those books look cool too. Ooh, Skin Deep. That looks neat.
That's a prose novel. It was one of the first ones I made. So that's
Okay.
I put that on there because it's got that pulp looking cover to it,
Yeah.
and it's a horror book though. But the way it's written is that it's a werewolf story, and after you're done reading it, it's one of those flip books. So you flip it over, and then there's a separate vampire story on the other side. So it's
Nice.
got that dual cover to it.
Nice. It's good. It's 2 bangs for your buck, kids.
Yeah.
Very cool. I like this Kickstarter. This is a very smooth setup, and I can't get over this cover. This cover is just gorgeous. So what's the plan as far as is there any distribution beyond the Kickstarter rewards? Will people be able to get this book anywhere other than Kickstarter, or should they get the hell on this? What's the plan?
So yeah, the Kickstarter obviously is what I'm trying to fund now, and then once it's done, the Kickstarter is to really have a print run of the book that I will basically use for either conventions or if I ever go back to a convention or
right.
signings.
Jeez.
But I have my own web store. So basically, if you missed the Kickstarter, it will be up there, and you could grab it along with all my other stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. Is your web store, I assume, is already up and running with your other stuff then?
Yeah. My website is frankthewriter.com. So that's where my shop is. You can find a whole mess of stuff up there.
So New York, I gotta ask, I don't know if I've talked to, well, I have ever, but have I talked to anybody really much in that area through the pandemic? And I'm not sure that I have. It was hard hit pretty early on for you guys. Have things petered out? Or I like to ask the people, I get a lot of guests on from all over, and I find that I get a much better beat on what's actually happening in areas by asking them than listening to any of the news, because everything's up and down and here or there, and there's such little pockets of communities affected by all these things. So what's the pandemic life for you as a comic creator at this stage?
At this current stage right now, things are relatively normal. My kids are in school full time. We go everywhere. We just kind of wear masks. We don't eat inside. People do, but my family chooses not to. But we eat outside. It's getting warmer.
Are your kids masked up at school?
Yes, they're masked up at school. I think that they have partitions on their desks.
Right.
So for the bulk of the school year, they basically broke the school up into 2 halves, where half the school went in the morning, and then the other half went in the afternoon. So my kids were in the afternoon. So basically, they stayed home all morning, which was horrendous. And then they would go to school for a couple hours in the afternoon. And it was only like a week, 2 weeks ago that they integrated them again. So now they go in the morning and they stay all day. And I ask them constantly, I say, do you like being in school? And they love it. And it's not a burden to them. And kids are funny. Everybody said that when kids go to school, kids don't listen. They're going to be trading masks. They're going to be taking their masks off. And it's actually the opposite. Kids are kind of indoctrinated to listen to teachers. That's just what they do. They listen.
Totally.
So kids go to school, they wear the mask, they don't complain, and they kind of do what they're told. It's all the adults that fuck everything up.
Yeah, pretty much. It's none of the schools that are the cases, at least here. I mean, my kid just got sent back. March break, like our spring break, got pushed back a month. So our March break became April break. And then like they did last year when the whole thing started, once they went home for March or for April break, now they're not going back. So my kid's been back into online this week after having been back for a couple months. But we're into a third wave here now in Ontario. And it's just, man, Rob Ford messed some shit up. And sorry, not Rob. Which one is it now? Doug. It's Dougie, folks. He messed a lot of shit up. And we don't seem to have any vaccines. And it's just like we're in the third wave is worse than any of the other waves. And I don't even know what to think, man, anymore. Or like I see America slowly starting to talk about things like having Comic-Cons later in the year and this and that. And man, I don't even have any hopes of the border opening anytime soon. So, it's nice that your kids are at least getting out of the house.
Yeah, it was very weird because I live next to the town where the first real cluster of cases happened.
Oh yeah.
Like we were locally in the news like a lot. It was kind of weird to be ground zero a little bit for everything that was happening. And those first couple weeks when things went into lockdown, I mean, things that seem normal now, like at that time, were like post-apocalyptic. It was kind of crazy because there wasn't as much knowledge about the virus at the time, so people didn't really know how to keep safe. So going to the supermarket, it was like playing it was like playing Fallout. You know, people were there in like weird suits, and everybody was close to one another. Everybody had gloves on. It was just really bizarre. So yeah, things are kind of turning around now. Everybody wear masks. Nobody complains. Everybody kind of follows the rules. And as you said, schools. The big fear was schools, and the data shows that schools. It's not schools where people are getting sick. You know, it's
right.
People get sick somewhere else, and then they end up closing school. But
it's like the factories and the workhouses, it seems, these days, you know. But I mean, I hope we also don't rush too quickly into Comic-Cons, because we already know that, you know, con crud is a scientifically proven thing, because we've all felt it at some point, right? So
well, the weird thing about cons is they make money by crowding as many people as they can into as small a space as possible.
Right.
So it's very hard to turn a profit when you're just not allowed to do that anymore. I had a con booked last April, and 2020 was going to be my big con turnaround year, because I haven't done a whole lot of cons sporadically, but I'm doing a whole bunch in 2020. And of course, the year laughed at me and said, no, that's not going to happen.
Right.
So the one I had booked for April was pushed to Labor Day. Then it was pushed to this April. And then obviously they said, we're not having it, so we're not going to reschedule. We're just going to kind of kick the can down the road, and we'll let you know when it's going to happen again. But one thing that they pointed out to me, which was true, is that they say the venue is allowed to be, I forget the number, 30% capacity or 60% capacity or whatever it is. And he says, which doesn't seem that bad, except that's not just for attendees. That's for everybody. That's for security. That's for celebrities. That's for Artist Alley. That's for food people. It's literally
staff,
for
janitorial services.
Yeah. So it's like, at what point do you make cuts to try to sell more tickets? Do you cut security? Do you cut food? Do you what do you cut janitorial? Do you cut cleaning? Like, where do you try to make? It's a weird balancing act, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's why I don't think we should rush into it. 2020 was supposed to be Source Point North's big year, and we were going to go across Canada. And we started in Vancouver, and so I sold everything on the table. It was a complete sellout, a huge, giant success. And then, boom, the hammer came down, because we were supposed to go to Calgary, and a bunch of other cool stuff happened, and it was going to happen. And, man, it just all went away. I still don't know what to do, man. I'm still here just talking and holding on and hanging on and hoping for the future. And I'm glad at least the industry that I love so much, that of the comic book creation, has in fact somehow flourished through this.
Yeah, I was going to run a Kickstarter in April, and the big talk about Kickstarter creators was, should we be launching projects right now? Because they shut down everything. People are losing jobs. People filing for unemployment. Should you even be caring about launching crowdfunding? And I had one for April. So I was like, I was kind of debating whether or not to do it. And at the end of the day, I pulled the trigger on it, and I did it because my mindset was, there's enough machines right now that are stopping. And I didn't want to be another machine that would just stop. I wanted to keep the gears going.
Nice. Yeah. You kind of have to. Yeah. Yeah.
So I launched, and it was a success, and I was happy that I made the right decision. And yeah, people have been backing Kickstarters through 2020 and buying comics.
People got to do something. They want to collect something. They want to entertain, be entertained. And, you know, it's nice to get that surprise in your mail, you know, every so often. And they also, I think, you know, it's fair turnaround where they know they're supporting their favorite artists, and they know these artists are struggling. And you know, this is how you keep them fed and you keep them and their families alive, and you support their Kickstarters. So it's definitely more than just wanting to be entertained, but you know, things have flourished. Like, you know, a lot of companies have taken some interesting risks and cool maneuvers to try to, you know, gain more of an online presence in a way. And you know, like Source Point Press was a show we were always, it was a con grind. What do you do when the cons go away? Somehow you have to take that personable, you know, intimate connection with the people that you're meeting, and somehow you have to put it online and somehow, you know, nurture that. And it's such a difficult thing to do, but luckily the fans were looking for it. You know what I mean? So I've been able to have a huge streak of crazy independent comics on in the last little while, of you know, people that might not have had as much opportunity to stand out amongst the Kickstarter crowd, because it can be a vast ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely tough, but people see a lot of opportunity because there's a bunch of shakeups in the industry. Um, a bunch of people are looking towards indie comics more and more to get that comic fix because they're unhappy with somewhere else.
Also IP, right? People want to make these TV shows and they want to make these movies and stuff, right?
People
So
are seeing the writing
yeah.
on the wall. A lot of stuff. I see a lot of stuff getting optioned, and not so much getting made, but that's the first step. So
It's made me
a lot of
switch things up. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No. Go for it.
It's made me switch things up like crazy, because there was a little period there where, as much as I love to support Kickstarters and, you know, through my own pledges and through the show, it just got to a point where the show it felt like it had become a bit of just a Kickstarter promo machine. And just week after week, I was just talking to Kickstarter after Kickstarter after Kickstarter. And, you know,
Sorry, I'll leave.
No, listen, let me explain. This is how it's made me have to switch things up, because a lot of that was just me trying, you know, it's my show. It's my job to make it an interesting conversation. That's my part of the deal here.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when I invite someone on or somebody asks to come on, you know, we're making an agreement to, you know, I understand they want to promote, but at the same time, I have to find a new, interesting, unique way into this conversation, because, you know, there's also a circuit now, right? Like my show used to just be my show, and I maybe knew 2 other comic book podcasts like 10 years ago. It wasn't like it is now, right? 10 years ago, there was none of this shit going on. And we were starting all these shows, and now it's like, it's just out of control. So I know there's a circuit, and it's hard for me to see a guest and then see them on a different show every day for, you know, another 7 days. So now I know if they're going to be on 7 other shows during that same week that they're on my show, I need to make it a unique conversation. I need to find a way in to talk about something, or at least have a feeling of a conversation that's in a different vibe than the other shows. You know what I mean? So that's where I've had to try different things where, you know, as much as we want to hear about your Kickstarter, I'm going to try to go other places because I have to, or I'm going to get bored.
So this is my take on this subject, because it's an important subject that people don't talk about.
Right.
Is that at the end of the day, what's more important than talking about Kickstarters? People seeing me. You know, at some point, they're going to see me enough that they're going to say, okay, I've seen Frank's ugly mug seven times this week. I might as well back his Kickstarter. I really don't care what we talk about. We could talk about anything. We could talk about the Kickstarter. We could talk about how the Yankees are in last place, or we could talk about world politics or the best movies. Hey, bud.
Hey, buddy. Hey.
I
love that you have that attitude, man. That's the kind of attitude I'm looking for in a guest. You know what I mean?
I'll chat about anything, and it fills me with such joy to know that that your son walks in there, and now my kids are not walking in there, because I'm usually the one with naked 3-year-old running in the background. The fact that I get the reprieve from that for tonight is good.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air when you can just not worry about it, because I do have a lot of guests who, if I don't know them, or even actually some of them that I do know very well, they just can't help it. But they're so, and I get it, they're driven, they want to get the word of the book out, but they don't get what you just said, that yes, they just need to see you. And if they just get to know you and like you, they're gonna like you know, they're going to want to read whatever they did because they're interested in you. Whereas some people will come on and just constantly keep redirecting back to the book. And it's redirect. And I feel like I'm fighting in the conversation to try to have an actual conversation when they just keep feeding it back to the book. And it's like, we'll talk about the book. People will see the damn book. The book's everywhere. We get it. You have a book, but you're also a human being. Talk to me. Have a conversation with me, you know?
I post enough about the book that if somebody wants to know, they're going to find out more about it on their own.
Right? Yeah. Like,
he seems like he wants something.
What's going on? What are you doing? Are you done playing stuff? No? You got more stuff to do. You got any new art? Can you bring that picture here? Let's show them this week that new one.
What?
The black and white one that you just did. I don't care. Bring the process. Bring the process, boy.
People want to see the nuts and bolts, kid.
Well, every week we show a new picture of his. So even though this one's not done, we're going to show this week's. Who is this?
It's L.
This is L from Death Note.
Yeah, it's not
All right, everybody ready?
It's not good though.
It's I think it's good. This is L from Death Note.
Way better than anything I could do.
Right? So yeah, that's by the Padawan. He's an anime freak. He's our little art prodigy. And I think that, I don't know if it's just natural talent or the fact that he's been growing up in Comic-Con since he was 2 years old, sitting next to the best of the best, watching them draw, but it's definitely at least rubbed off on him. But, you know, I also wonder, the initial lockdown, if that kid didn't have like 6 or 7 straight months to do absolutely nothing except what he loved to do, which is draw anime all day, every day, other than when online school was going, you know, would he be as good as he's gotten? And that makes me question the education system. Like we really need to focus more on these kids' individualities and not just try to be churning out workers and, you know, members of society. Like we're supposed to be developing more, I feel like now, you know?
What I figured from school is kind of what we already knew, which is what you just said, is that there's no one perfect way to teach kids because no one kid is the same. For instance, my son struggled with online learning. He just could not sit down and do his math. He could do math. He's super smart. He could do it. He was just like bored by it. He's just like, I'm in my room with my Legos. I would much rather play Legos. And I'm like, I couldn't fault him for that. Meanwhile, my daughter, who's in kindergarten, is a freak. She's one of these kids that goes home, gets her homework, and it's the first thing she does when she gets home.
Really?
Yeah. So she's like super anal when it comes to work. So all these kids are different. And when you go to school and you have them all try to learn in the same way, some are going to flourish and some are not. So you really have to, the best method is to see what kid succeeds in what form of environment and kind of nurture that rather than just hammer home every single kid with the same kind of process.
It'd be nice. And he's lucky. He goes to a like a small school. There's like what? How many kids are in your school? 800, 500? 200. No, it's not two. Oh, well, maybe now 200 because when you were there, all the other kids might have stayed home. But normally, what was it? 200. No, it wasn't 200.
500 maybe.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you for being on top of things. That's fantastic.
Interpretive dance going on.
Usually, I mean, they're so wound up and all the time. And how's this for a COVID do? That's a year and a half of no damned haircut. You filthy hippie. You filthy hippie boy. Okay, I'm having a talk here. You can stop right now.
Reminds me of my kid.
All righty. Very cool. Dude, thank you so much. I enjoyed that, which I appreciate. And I appreciate you being open to a different and unique conversation and not just telling me about your damn tears and about your damn rewards for an hour straight. Because
hey, I'm sick of talking about it too.
Yeah. See, now I'm looking forward to meeting you at a convention eventually and having a face-to-face conversation when we're finally allowed to in the future.
With hazmat suits.
And the book is... It's a work of art. It's I know you say it is what you say. It's straight ahead. It's you know, there's not going to be any kind of, you know, weird twist to this whole idea. No aliens show up or any kind of weird crap. So it's just a good old school detective story. And as you kids saw, the art is fantastic and beautiful. And you're so damn close.
I'm just there.
So damn close. What did I say? It was $61 or something.
I don't know. You guys have monopoly money up there, so I don't really know how it translates.
Our money is so silly in general. Okay, there you go, kids. The Last Homicide. Get on Kickstarter. Check it out. Somebody please cough up that last, $50 Canadian. Bring it over to the edge. 5 days to go. I'm sure you're not going to have a problem. So if I don't speak with you, I will give you a preemptive congratulations, because that's good times. And again, very cool to get to meet you, Mr. Frank Martin.
You too. Thank you for having me on. Good night. Good night to your little tumbler over there.
Yeah, right? Thanks for being a distraction, kid. I appreciate you. You're good times. Anytime you need to come on or just want to come on, you got anything to talk about or anything going on or just have an opinion, give me a shout, man. You're welcome back anytime.
Appreciate that.
All right, kids, that is all we are going to have this week on An Elegant Weapon. So everybody, please stay safe, follow the rules, do all that good stuff. Let's get out of this. We'll get out of it together. Okay. Yeah. Take it easy. Bye. Say goodbye, Declan. Bye. All right.